Once again, back is the incredible. We're talking about you. You're back. You're incredible. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here at HBCU Game Day. There is no us without you. All right, let's get to a story that we overlooked. Well, I won't say overlooked. We had the SWAC championship last weekend, so we didn't have a lot of time to get into it. We had an article on it at hbcugameday.com as soon as it happened, but we haven't talked about it on Wax here. And that is Shaqir O'Neal, the youngest son of Shaquille O'Neal. Last Friday night, he committed to Texas Southern University and head coach Johnny Jones. Now, Johnny Jones is an LSU man. He played there. He was an assistant there. He was the head coach there. And if you're too young to remember, Shaquille O'Neal played basketball collegiately at LSU, and Johnny Jones was an assistant coach on that team, 1990, 89, 90, that kind of time frame. I was a young buck back then, but I do remember that. So there is some familiarity with Coach Jones and the O'Neal family. But here's the thing, as we advance the story, Shaquille O'Neal talked about his son's Shaqir's decision on his podcast this week. And he didn't say a lot, but here's what Shaquille O'Neal had to say. He said, all right, shout out to Shaqir, HBCU. It was good. Johnny Jones, who was a coach at LSU, I know he's going to take care of my son. He's one of the first people in our family to go to an HBCU, talking about Shaqir. My father went to an HBCU for 1 or 2 years, but then he said, you know what? I got to take care of this big dude, so I got to go get another job. O'Neal goes on to say, I know most of the bros down there, so hopefully they'll take care of him. And Shaquille O'Neal, a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He's a Q dog. I'm sure you knew that, right? And he goes on to say, it was his decision. I've always been a firm believer that when a child turns 18, they are on their own. His mother did a wonderful job of raising him. It was his decision, and I'm going to follow his decision. All right, here's the good stuff here. If some of these players finally decide we're going to go here, that eyes will always turn. It's always been the norm to go to these big schools that we could never get into. So here's what I really like about what Shaquille O'Neal had to say. It wasn't his decision. It wasn't him pushing his son to an HBCU and telling his son, hey man, let's do something different. I think this is a great idea. And his son just kind of goes along with it. This was all on Shaqir, which could be a very positive sign that this generation of student athletes coming out are seriously considering HBCUs and understand the impact that they have by making a decision to go to an HBCU. Now, Shaqir is 6'7". He's a shooting guard. He can handle the ball. He's a 3-star recruit by some services. So that's a pretty good player for an HBCU to get. And of course, the name that comes along with it, O'Neal and Shaq, he's not going to be able to escape that label. And that's a good thing for Texas Southern. You know, there will be some exposure that just organically comes along with that. So let us know, what do you think? We've been seeing the trend in football there in the SWAC, but SWAC basketball doesn't get the credit for how great it really is there. Texas Southern made some noise in the NCAA tournament. They won one of the first 4 games before taking on Michigan. Do you see a trend? Do you see the tides turning on the basketball front? Let us know what you think. But the big news, it happened last week, but Shaquille O'Neal talked about it this week. His son, Shaqir O'Neal, on his way to Texas Southern to play for head coach Johnny Jones.